Hey, y'all. Brace here. I'm here with my good female friend.
Liz, hi.
And, of course, our third male friend, Young Chomsky. And I just want to get some stuff out of the way before I feel like we feel comfortable starting this episode.
Just to clear the air.
Totally clear the air here.
Yeah, get some,
distance between us, maybe, and some other people, too.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of stuff coming out on social media, on the Reddit forums, Discords, and I think it's just good if we get something official out there from our mouths, so there's not a lot, kind of put it into the gossip and the rumor mill and all of that.
So just up front, out the gates, we fully denounce Adam Friedland. 100%.
I mean, I've been doing that for a long time.
I mean, he is just like persona non grata. I mean, Liz never trusted him because he's Jewish. I didn't like him just because, also because of that, but sort of like a rivalry thing. And it's just like, we just want to say, we have no ties to that show or anything like that.
I don't even know what the show is.
But I think more importantly than that, I think we need to just talk about accountability, right?
And not in the abstract. I mean, really, let's bring it down to earth. You know what I mean? And talk specifics.
Matt Healy, the musician from the band The 1975, which I'm going to be just, again, upfront with you guys. Both Liz and I believe, think that was Death from Above 1979.
Okay, so wait, this is what I need to clear the air about.
Yeah.
I do not know, 1, who this person is, 2, what this band is, 3, thought this band was actually a different band.
Yeah.
Which, when you
I've also never heard.
Just right now, you said the 1975, and I went, damn, it's not the 1979?
You did say that earlier, and we did both, neither Dan Chomsky nor I corrected you.
Yeah, you didn't correct me. What's up with that? Oh, is that a woman thing?
Yeah, you start crying. But we're not doing that today, okay? We're supporting our women here. So the 1979 is a band that were they around? Young Chomsky, you like this kind of shit. Were they okay? Okay, he did the hand to the side thing. Were they are they contemporaries or the same band as Death from Above 1979?
No, they're more recent.
They're more recent?
Because that one was from
that's
15 years
Vice,
ago, right?
Vice magazine.
Okay,
music.
I legit thought this was that band.
Absolutely,
I was
did the
wow,
same.
wasn't that a band of Alexa Chung time?
Don't know who
Crazy
that is
that they still are around.
Yeah, but I think
she's 40 now.
It's so what this guy is he's a musician from England.
See, that's again, I just assumed.
Yeah.
Seems like the same thing.
And I guess a while ago he went on the Adam Friedland podcast, which is Come Town but more racist, I guess. And
you've been on it.
So they he went on that podcast, and I guess I don't have the article up anymore. No, here it is. Oh no, this is about Bill Gates. So he said things about Ice Spice, who is a musician.
Yes.
And he said that he had DM'd her. And Doja Cat.
Okay. He was just bragging about. To quote Brace and be fully for real with you for a second. I don't even know what any of this is about, but I'm very excited. What did he? I don't know what he said about either of them or about anyone.
So in another instance, this is from Rolling Stone. In another instance, the host encouraged Healy to message the rapper on Instagram for clarity. So you slide into her well, actually, you know what? I'll do his real voice. So you slide into her DMs and ask, what are you? Are you fucking Eskimo or something? And Matt Healy apparently laughs along.
Well, he's trying to be nice to Adam.
He's trying
right?
to be nice to Adam.
Yeah, that's what a lot of young men like to do is laugh along to Adam Friedland, quote unquote jokes.
So, which by the way, they're not jokes. So, cut to some amount of time later. Not entirely sure how long.
Okay.
Some amount of time later, Matt Healy begins dating. This is kind of hard for me to talk about, but he starts dating Taylor Swift. Allegedly dating Taylor. I can't tell if that's real or not.
It seems like that.
Regardless,
it seems like her people want you to believe that it's real, and so to us little, little gumshoes on the ground and
Mm-hmm.
not high up in the mighty skies of celebritydom. It's real to us.
It's real to us. It's super real to me. Honestly, it's kind of taking over my life.
Look,
just to,
reality is what Taylor Swift's publicist says it is.
Yeah,
That's what I'm always saying.
And so they begin dating. She is broken up with her long-term boyfriend, whose name I do not have in front of me, but
There's always
someone, you know.
She's a serial
I'm sure he did
dater.
something. And they're broken up, and now she's together with just this guy who's just seems problematic to me. I mean, just like he says things that are, according to a meme I saw earlier, most of the different phobias and some of the isms as well. And I just want to I want to talk to her. I know she's a listener to the show, and I want to talk directly to Taylor right now. That's all right with you, Liz.
If Taylor Swift is listening to the show, by the way, that's crazy.
I don't, she only listens to my parts. Taylor, my name is Brace. I know you've seen the DMs because it says that on Instagram when someone sees them. You haven't responded, probably because your people are preventing you from doing that. But I just want to put it out there. This guy is not right for you. I know you just got out of a long relationship, right? And you're probably confused and you're like, oh, it's like, I don't know, I'm 33, which that's crazy. I am too. I'm entering sort of the twilight years of my life. Honestly, just statistically will die soon, just of age. And I'm afraid of ending up alone is what your thoughts are. And I want to tell you this, that I get it. I understand. I don't think that this guy does, okay? I think he is a problem for you, and obviously a problem for your PR. A lot of your fans are not very happy with this, and I think that you could do better. I know that you could do better. And I just want to put out there, I have been a big fan of your work for the past amount of time, and that I just, it's not even beyond that. I just, I'm a fan of you as a person. And I think that, if you and I got together, we could make something beautiful. It's what's H2O, right? 2 parts oxygen and 1 part hydrogen. And to me, I'm hydrogen, you're my oxygen. And I feel like if I'm not with you, I can't breathe. And I might die. And I just want to say that we denounce in the strongest terms whoever you're dating at any point in time. And any podcast that they're associated with. And I just want to say, not all podcasters are like that, okay? Not all podcasters are like that. Some of us are different than that. And the podcast I think that you should maybe get together with, Taylor, it's called TrueAnon.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Come here. Jeffrey Epstein.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are interrupting our own podcast episode to bring you a special announcement from the same people who do the rest of the podcast episode, but maybe forgot to add this part.
But maybe I should do it in a different voice. So, hello everyone. Is this a different voice? No, this is my same
it's just
voice.
Your same voice, but a little.
Wait, what
deeper.
about wait, let me try and do Brace voice. Hello. Wait, no, that's not it.
Wow. No, do it. Say it like that, Liz.
No, I'm not gonna say it like that. Hello everyone.
Hello.
We have a little announcement. Wee wee. Wait, that's not the announcement sound, is it? Maybe it should be like doo doo. No, not honking.
Boo. That's not honking. It's backing up a big ass truck.
Okay, no, this one is the doo doo announcement sound, which is that we have this new cool thing, and by we I mean Patreon, which is that you can get
Patreon, the coolest, most left-wing website in the world.
No, they have this thing now called trial subscriptions, which is so cool, I think. So you can sign up and basically try it out. And you can be like, I don't know about these guys. I'm a little unsure.
Yeah, this lady seems like
maybe
anti-Semitic.
they've got something something over there that I might like, but I don't know. I don't want to commit because I have issues that I'm working out with my analyst right now.
I'm a 21-year-old.
I'm a 21-year-old and I'm so scared of commitment. Grow
I
up,
don't know.
bitch.
I don't know. Just you guess that. Guess what? Find somebody with the same incurable STD as you. That's your life partner.
Spoiler alert, we talk about that later.
Yeah, we do. We do.
And spoiler alert, it'll make you go crazy.
So wait, did we explain what the thing is?
No, you won't let me. So it's a trial subscription. You sign up, you get to try us out for 7 days for free. You can listen to all the episodes.
Every episode.
Just like 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how many there are.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
And
11.
you won't be charged for 7 days, but here's the catch.
After 7 days, you're charged $500.
No, you get charged the normal amount if you don't cancel, which that's the little trick. They try to trick you, but just cancel.
It's like that. Listen.
But don't cancel because actually you're going to sign up and then you're going to join us on Patreon where we do really cool stuff.
We do so much crazy stuff.
We have really cool stuff coming up, actually.
We do. We do next week. Yes. So, wait, in more than 7. Actually, no, by the time this comes out.
I love doing like reads like this. We could talk about the tour. We could talk about we have to promote something. And it is just, young Chomsky is laughing so hard because he can't believe how bad we are at it. But you say bad, I say good.
I say 7-day free trial thing now up on Patreon. If you want to go onto that, do that for the detective tier. That is the $5 tier. And to make this clear, the $1 tier doesn't really get you anything. You get Discord access.
Which is a thing.
That I know, but
I see you in there.
I'm in there. Hey, you're so fucking intelligent for your age. That's great. No, I can help you.
He's on his Kevin Durant alts.
I can help you I can help you. Calculus? Oh, I'm so good at that. Go into the private room with me.
Yeah, sign up there. It is patreon.com/TrueAnon pod.
All right, tears are being wiped from cheeks, and we're ready to start the show.
Cheers, because we don't have tickets to Eras, which is this weekend, which I did ask you to ask about.
Who was I supposed to ask about?
You're supposed to ask Adam.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think that's the last person who could do that.
I feel like that's the first person who could do that.
No.
I don't know anyone else.
No,
I don't even know him.
Yeah,
I just know you.
I don't think that we can.
And your name is?
My name is Brace Belden. You know, and you know what? I just want to put this out there. I'm also gay, Taylor Swift. So if that makes you feel more comfortable. We have with me today.
I'm Liz.
And of course, producer Young Chomsky. The podcast is called TrueAnon.
Hello.
Hello. And I'm a bit of a musician myself, as evidenced by sort of a harsh
Do you
gong.
consider someone who hits a gong a musician?
I don't know. One
You
wonders.
do? Wow, young
You do?
Chomsky is nodding like emphatically.
It's the orchestra. In an orchestra.
But I'm not talking about
it's
in an
contextual.
orchestra. In an orchestra, everyone's a musician,
Everyone's a
including the
musician.
conductor.
You're waving it like a wands around.
No, it's literally a musician.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
What does
But-
that mean? What if you hit it
Well-
at the wrong time? But that's
My
now
thing
you're
is-
judging after the fact.
My thing is if you have a gong in a ceremonial role, such as before a sumo wrestling match, or when the dragon is rising from the volcano,
Or at a wake.
they gong at wakes.
Well, inappropriately, probably.
Yeah, that's true. Or just like honestly, when kind of a big guy walks by, right? Like our Oompa Bands musicians. Because oftentimes Oompa Bands fall around sort of corpulent individuals. They walk in a sort of rhythmic fashion, one leg, other leg, Oompa, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Are
To the
those
beat,
guys
to the beat.
musicians or are they pranksters? Riddle me this. I am not playing music right now. In fact, I'm doing a sound effect. And the sound effect is to start our show. And we have a bit of a grab bag for you today, ladies and gentlemen.
Before we get into all that stuff, I feel like because I got you here, we have to talk about putting Ron DeSantis's presidential announcement, which actually, before we even get into that, I want to say that I just saw on the way here, Chris Wade, friend of the show, tweeted that Ron DeSantis' middle name is Dion. His name is Ron Dion DeSantis.
Really?
Ron Dion DeSantis. I
Ron-
can't stop saying it in my head. Ron Dion DeSantis.
That's no. How do you spell that? Like Dion the
like
musician?
Deion Sanders.
Wow, it is. That's crazy.
Ron
RDD.
Dion DeSantis. And it's so weird because it's simultaneously like very musical. Ron Dion DeSantis. It's very like lyric and also insanely awkward and strange.
I don't like it. Yeah, Dion's a crazy ass middle name. We got to talk about before we actually talk about whatever else we were going to talk about. We got to talk about the guy's voice.
We've talked about it before.
We've talked about it before. We are doing, by the way, this is I feel like very like normal, like TrueAnon, like we're doing like our past few episodes, and this episode is like our normal podcast. Like we're doing like a very normal podcast. If that makes any sense to you. That's how I'm thinking in my head. It's like we're doing like a normal podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And so Ron DeSantis' voice is a perfect subject for that. How would you describe it?
It is both, let's say, I find it shocking but not surprising.
Okay. Yeah.
Every time I hear it, it's like I've never heard it before. And I'm like shocked into like, oh my God, that's his voice again? And then it's like, yeah, he looks like his voice would be that obnoxious.
It's sort of like, you know how when you picture toads talking, right? Like sometimes if you see like a toad or a frog on the street, you imagine what it would say to you and what that voice would sound like, right? But I feel like a really skinny frog, not the one, not the guy who dances, not that fucking guy with the tie and tails. But I'm saying like a little skinnier frog.
Okay.
He would
like
sound
he's been like
that.
squeezed out.
And I've heard some people say that he has gay voice. And I want to clear something up here. He does not. He has like a cousin of that, but there's a certain kind of guy from the South. I'm thinking specifically in South Carolina here, that has this kind of voice that ignorant coastal liberal elites who do, I'm going to be honest with you, veiled homophobia deride his gay voice, but it's not. It's something else.
What is it? It's like son of a boatman voice.
Well, what kind of boatman?
Hobby boatman.
Hobby boatman. It is the son
Not
of
a
a hobby boatman
sailor,
voice.
but just a guy who has a boat. I mean, this motherfucker went to like Yale and Harvard. I mean, it's just, it's not like, it's like he's trying to do like down home HOA voice.
He was in the Navy. Can you imagine getting black bagged on like a farm in Afghanistan and being illegally renditioned to Guantanamo Bay, and then Ron DeSantis is there, like one of the guys yelling, horrible. He decided, the thing is, the guy's a handsome guy. I would say he's a 10 out of whatever number you'd like. And so his decision to do a voice-only presidential announcement, I got to tell you, people call McCain the Maverick, right? Because most people are like, airplanes should fly. He had different ideas. DeSantis was like, I should just talk.
It's the least charismatic thing about him. And yeah, I mean, I don't think that much of his other senses are really doing that much work for him.
Including his eyes, because boy, if I had that lady Christina Pushaw working for me, I would yelp in terror every time she sashayed into the motherfucking room.
Did you watch it? Did you watch the Twitter space?
There's nothing to watch.
Or I call it watching because you're looking at your phone when you click it to go on.
I did listen to so for those of you who are living under a fucking rock next to Ron DeSantis' skinny frog body, Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, announced his presidential run on Twitter in a space with David Sachs.
A space.
He did buys and spaces with David Sachs and Elon Musk. And I did listen to it, and I tried to listen to it at first, and it was just like, so you know how you're in the same room as somebody and you're both on speakerphone and you talk into one and it creates like this insane fucked up feedback loop, and it's just like a nightmare to listen to. It's horrible. It's like back and forth, echoing. That was the first 20 minutes, I would say.
If you just like clicked into it, like, oh, I kind of missed it. Let me see what's up. There was nothing.
It was nothing. It was 20 minutes, and they're talking about allocating. I mean, I just had to stop listening because I was listening to my headphones, taking a walk, and I was like, I can't be fucking around with this. They did fix it.
After like 25 minutes.
After a while, they decided to switch, I guess, to David Sacks's account, and it was part of me at first thought that Ron's like spiel was pre-recorded, but it was like half Ron DeSantis saying some bullshit, like I'm the president, blah blah blah, and then the other half I would say was nakedly an ad for Twitter and Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Just like David Sacks and Musk kind of going back and forth congratulating each other on how cool it was that they were doing this and that how Ron DeSantis could talk directly to the people or whatever and like not be censored. It was boring.
It was really boring and also really pathetic. I don't know. At some point, I started to kind of feel bad for him, which is like a crazy thing to say about such a fucking moron.
He's short, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
He reads short.
I think that's like Trump's whole thing now is that Ron is short.
Trump is
he sounds and
dominates
reads
him.
short. Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just was like. I couldn't believe what I was listening to. I was like, who in their right mind would think this is a good idea to launch a presidential campaign who a lot of people I think is like the guy that's gonna be the one to take down Trump or whatever.
Yeah, I think his partisans who you can already it's like they're like the like hanger on, like they're like the Elizabeth Warren people. Like when it was like far, like after the first few primaries happened, it was like clear that nobody but like librarians wanted to vote for her. They're like how those people were.
But
like,
it's like punk rock librarians.
Yeah, like quirky librarian. Or like not like punk rock, but like Miss Frizzle kind of like.
That's
like,
yeah.
I'm a weird librarian. It's like they're like those kind of people. It's like, bro, what are you doing? You're fucking deluding yourself. And it was just, I mean, he was talking about, he said the woke mind virus.
That's his thing.
It's his thing?
Well, he's really leaned into it.
He's like the guy that says that kind of shit?
Yeah. He was like, the woke mind virus is basically a form of cultural Marxism.
That's so true, bro.
I'm always saying
so
that.
True.
That's the thing that everyone understands what you're saying when you say that. I don't know. A lot of people seem to think this has a lot of purchase with the right. I don't know. Maybe it does, but I don't.
I just think it does.
I don't really. I think he has a lot of work to do to kind of win over
no legs
the super active, like the activist mediatized right wing base, which are the ones that make all of the decisions in the primary.
Fox was like making fun of him and shit. Like
you got Fox, Sans Tucker making fun of you.
Yeah, like
shit,
your ship has sunk without leaving the motherfucking harbor.
Yeah.
But I think it's emblematic. Fuck, dude, that can't be the new word I start saying. I think it sums up. That doesn't even make sense like that. Anyways, the guy, I think because he's kind of this like befuddled dwarf, right? But his team seems to be like, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. You are an adult human being and you're using the word based like to describe yourself or your politics or just in any way. You need to commit suicide. And I feel like his team, I'm not saying this for them, but like, or any of you who do that and are mentally unstable, but I'm just like, his team seems like those kind of people who are like, I'm fucking you're just on the internet too much. That's what that means. You're on the motherfucking, you're tipping and tapping those keys like a motherfucking chimpanzee trying to write Shakespeare. And you're on there. And these people are like, oh, we're based DeSantis. Like, we just got to get him out there and be like cultural Marxism, woke mind virus. And people will be like, what a fucking, I don't know, how based of him or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
His team is on the internet too much.
Yeah, it's definitely an extremely, someone said once that like Trump was the first extremely online politician or whatever. It's not. Trump was the first poster, maybe. But I think that has more to do with his own kind of like personal kind of like predilection towards theatrics and camp than it does his own kind of I don't know, personal history as a poster. But DeSantis is like the first extremely online. I mean, AOC is very extremely online. I think that she hasn't really run a massive campaign like on this scale or anything yet. But he even governs like extremely online. Everything seems to be catered toward Twitter headlines and
Getting Chris Rufo to be like sick.
Yeah, but it's like even less than like legacy media stuff, right? It's really like social media, populist energy. It seems like it's going after, or mistaken populist energy. I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't know.
I think there also needs to be like a distinction between like, because Trump had legions of fans online, right, and offline.
Yeah,
but legions of fans online, and the thing is like the way that DeSantis is trying to activate people, it seems like, is more in line with like the Bernie way, where it's like you got all these people online and posting like this is, I feel like, should be a common knowledge by now. But if your candidate is on the motherfucking internet too much, that is a stay away. You don't want the posting congressman, right? And I'm not saying Ron DeSantis himself is on the internet, but Ron DeSantis is controlled by a cabal of heavily plastically surgeoned people in their mid-30s who are spending a considerable amount of their times on Twitter.
I don't want to know. The staff DMs are going to be staff group DMs.
Ugh, disgusting.
Insane. Yeah.
And just like that is like Trump's people are like they're committing infidelities of types that you've never even heard of, right? Like they are in the space age of doing shit. They're like guys in their mid-50s who I could not. It's like Rudy Giuliani. He's not even his mid-50s. He's like 70, who's trying to get laid in ways that have hitherto been unspeakable. Whereas like the DeSantis people are just like, it's like the mere image of like the 2020, like Bernie, some of the cornier people that worked for him then.
Yeah.
Like it's like the image of that, but they live in Florida and I'd say the word based.
Yeah.
Right?
Or the Warren campaign. I look forward to the DeSantis campaign staffers getting Holocaust tattoos, but for a different reason.
Yeah. So, Liz, when I met you on Platonic Hinge, like a friendship app that I developed.
Didn't they do that for a while?
Did they? I feel like I remember, like vaguely. I remember actually, no, you know what? I think I just read people saying how they'd met friends on Tinder and shit. Bumble BFF. That seems like a great way to scam people. But I feel like I've heard about people be like, I'm here platonically or whatever, like on Hinge and whatnot. But that's where we met.
Yeah, of course.
And because of course, Ace Aromantic, famously, that's sort of the app I created was for Ace Arrow people to meet each other. I can't remember where I was going with that, but spaces. Why I originally want to talk to you is because you listed your interests as bodies and spaces. And now bodies, of course, famously because of my sexual predilections, I have no interest in. But spaces is something that I'm I would say enamored with, right? I've been in spaces most of my life. And I continually, it seems like every day I enter either a new space or a space I've been before. And it turns out that Twitter has a space, sis. Liz, could you riddle me this? What is that?
Well, that was the thing that Ron DeSantis was in. And it's basically like just live audio that someone moderates and hosts through like, I'll say I'll have a space and then a bunch of people join and you can kind of pick who's speaking at any given time. And a ton of other people can listen in. And I'll say that I have participated in spaces silently. I've listened, but I haven't like spoken. Only after basketball games because they're really big in sports. Like you go into the spaces and listen to what people are saying after the games.
The post discussion.
Yeah, and they get real hot and they get real spicy.
So from what I understand, Spaces was sort of launched. This was in 2021 as an answer to Clubhouse. Remember that?
Yeah.
So Clubhouse, of course, was basically the same thing as Twitter Spaces, except just on a different website. It became, I think, pretty quickly a race war style website with just
Wait, what is that? What is a race war style website?
Liz, don't pretend like we didn't actually in real life meet on a race war style website. Race war. You know what I'm talking? A race war style website. You know, like a website where you go to participate in some kind of what colloquially they call Rahawa, but racial holy war, right? It's like you got the whites over here, blacks over here, you got Asians, various Latin types of them, South Asians, East Asians, West Asians, Russians, all that shit, and you kind of group with your race and then you fight a war on
Incredible.
a website. So it was basically just like different like discussion rooms about hating on other races.
And you're telling me it wasn't successful?
It was actually, I would say, it really depends on your metrics of success. It was, I don't believe it's in heavy use anymore. But Twitter sort of was like, we're going to do our own version of that because it was big among like freaks on Twitter.
Yeah, of course.
I think it was big along a lot of the Bitcoin people and shit as well.
Oh, yeah. I've also listened to post Fed meeting ones that are run by economists and stuff.
In Clubhouse?
No, on Twitter.
I've never, because did you ever use Clubhouse?
No.
I didn't either. I don't got that.
First of all, if you're telling me to go to another website on Twitter, I'm not going there.
Are you crazy?
Don't ever go to a second location.
I'm sorry, if I want to do the race war, I'm literally already a general in real life on it. But what side? So, Twitter launches this thing. I know that they do them. I've never listened to one, unlike Liz. I'm not in there every Friday after the big basketball game, you know. But I was recently asked to be part of one. A man named, this is going to be rough for me, Mario Knopfel. Knopfel?
Knopfel is a crazy last name.
Knopfel. That's like someone giving a bad review of New Orleans.
But they're saying he's not awful,
Not
which I
awful.
like.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I know who he is because I had seen that he had been the moderator of kind of the only Twitter spaces that like get like artificially boosted to me by Twitter.
Okay.
It's like Elon, the list of past participants and you know people he's interviewed on it is impressive. Hunter Biden, Rudy Giuliani.
I didn't know they would let him do that.
It does seem ill-advised for Hunter Biden to participate in that, and we were all kind of surprised that
They
happened.
should not let him have a computer or phone.
Well, I don't think he's probably allowed to look at certain websites on the computer,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Spaces is not one
If
of
I
them.
was the Biden team, I'd be like, do not do this.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani, Elon Musk, you know, people of that caliber. I just realized all three people I have named have been publicly accused of sexual improprieties. This guy DM'd me. He is in charge of something called Fruithy. Fruithy, F-R-O-O-T-H-I-E, Fruithy. It appears to be a website that sells Fruithy kind of fruit smoothie. That seems to be a portmanteau. Like kind of like Knopfel.
Sure.
Fruithy sells fruit.
You should call it Knopfel Fruithies.
Knopfel Fruithy. Knopfel Fruithy is actually
Dude,
is
Knopfel
good.
Fruithies goes hard.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sells.
Says what it is right in the name.
It appears to be like, you know how, so Liz, you know me, I'm dropshipper, probably one of the most
You're
like,
a prolific dropshipper.
prolific dropshipper.
Yeah.
Right? If you've ever bought a katana
There's
in the United
no
States
ship
of America.
he
it came
hasn't
from-
dropped.
Yeah. I think what Fruithy is like one step above drop shipping, or it actually just is drop shipping, just not using Amazon.
Wait, but dropshipping smoothies?
Smoothie makers.
Oh, okay.
What are they called? Blenders.
Blenders.
Blender.
Fruithy's a blender?
Fruithy's a blender.
Yeah, see, when I said it says it right in the name, I wasn't being, it does not.
So he also is an NFT guy, including he has the
Well,
stop
naturally.
sign shaped NFT profile picture of one of those little drawings. And frankly, the man's goated. He's goated in fire.
Okay.
And he was running the space. He DM'd me. He's like, hey, we're doing a Twitter space on.
How the fuck did he find out about TrueAnon?
I don't know, because he clearly had no clue who we were. and in fact believed that it was maybe one person who did it whose name was TrueAnon.
Yeah, he did. Well, we'll talk about
that in a
he
second.
kept referring to you as True.
True.
But
well, no, at first they called me TrueAnon, and then by the end when we gained some familiarity with each other, full disclosure, I loved this guy. Not like doing a bit. He was great.
Yeah.
They started calling me True.
Do you think he can send us some Fruthies?
I should hit him up. He did signal message me. I gave my phone number.
Oh my God, he signaled
He did signal
you?
message me to ask if I had WhatsApp, which I forgot to respond to. It's been like 2 days, but I will do that after we record.
Yeah, let's get some Fruthies.
So he asked me if I wanted to participate in a Twitter space, and I sometimes when we get asked to do stuff like this, I know what the answer is going to be
Yes.
if I ask Liz.
Oh, no.
The answer is going to be no 100% of the time.
Yeah. I think I said something really nice too. Where
She always does like, no, but you can do it. So what I always do.
No. My response was, those spaces could be kind of hectic.
Yes.
It's probably easier if there's just one TrueAnon voice, which is true.
That's true. But I also know you just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying sitting on my porch.
All good. All good. I'm always available to talk. That's not true. But I'm sometimes available to talk. And so I say, of course, yes, I would be thrilled to. He said it was 6 p.m. that evening, and they'd send me a kind of detailed list of things we might be talking about, basically none of which we covered, that it would be about Epstein.
I didn't realize it was that formal.
He had a team. The team reached out.
Fruity team?
I think it was the Mario team, but they might moonlight as Fruity employees. So they reached out to. They had like a whole Google Doc and shit, like with links to articles and stuff like that, and like background on Epstein. I know. I was a little impressed. I get in there at 6 p.m. No one there. I'm on my motherfucking computer with the little microphone that I have at home.
Sure.
And I joined the Twitter space, and it won't let me talk. And that is when I found out that you
It's
cannot
mobile only.
use your computer to use a Twitter space.
Yeah.
So you have to. So I always wonder why they always sound so shitty. It's because everyone's just on.
I wonder what the thinking is behind that.
I don't know. I listen. I don't understand how computers work,
Okay,
right?
I know.
I do know, though, that many websites let you use microphones, including some websites that I've used, right? And I don't know why I said it like that, but that is technically true. Why Twitter doesn't have that technology, I don't know. But I think they fired everybody that could probably do that, or at least they don't have enough people to maybe get that really implemented.
Yeah, okay.
So it's going to sound like shit probably forever. So I get in this motherfucker, and I immediately see we have one of the most goated lists of human beings that you could possibly have. First of all, I realize it's titled Epstein with Benny Johnson.
Okay, can we talk about Benny Johnson?
It's hard for me because I already feel like I used up saying gay with Ron DeSantis.
So I don't know anything about him. In my head, he is a cartoon man. Mm-hmm. Because I think the only thing I've ever seen is like an avatar, which I do believe is a cartoon character.
It was I don't believe he has that anymore, but at the time, for
Wasn't
a long
it like
time.
a little stick man with like crazy hair?
Yes.
With like kind of like
Which I will
like
say,
wacky like orange hair, and it was like pencil stick man.
in contrast to many people's drawn profile pictures on various
It's like
websites,
reverse carrot.
it does look like him, actually. You know,
Okay.
it is a fairly accurate representation. Benny Johnson is sort of like, who's that one motherfucker who yelled at his wife? Who's like, Steven Crowder. He's kind of
Right.
like Steven Crowder, but like low T.
Yeah,
Like-
I've always because he's like such a like online cartoon character to me.
Yeah.
He's just like the right wing clippy for me. Like he just kind of pops up and is like, "Hey,
Yeah. Transgender?
hey, is that transgender?"
Is that transgender? Which, by the way, he did work into this conversation.
Yeah.
He was colloquially known as BuzzFeed Benny for quite a while.
What was that? Did everyone who worked at BuzzFeed just had the name BuzzFeed?
Yeah, they did. They all had to take it.
Yeah.
It was sort of it was actually the subject of a massive class action lawsuit. BuzzFeed Benny, which is, by the way, there's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. You call me, I am known as BuzzFeed Brace for any point of time in my life. I'm drifting into the shadows. You know, I live among the rats after that. I'm in the thieves guild. That's my new job, right? I commit burglaries and then bring a portion of the proceedings back to my guild members. BuzzFeed Benny, he's at BuzzFeed as Benny. And he's sort of like a token center-right guy, writing listicles about if Ted Cruz is Canadian, which is, I gotta tell you, one of the most manly jobs you can have. Ben Smith, another BuzzFeed Ben. There was two of them.
Well, one was Benny, so
BuzzFeed Ben and BuzzFeed Benny. Ben Smith, another, now probably has the worst named outlet of all time, Semaphore now. He defended at first BuzzFeed Benny from constant charges of plagiarism until an internal audit, I believe, found out that BuzzFeed Benny had plagiarized directly 41 different articles. So he had basically lifted other people's writing 41 different times. He goes on to run social for one of the hottest up-and-coming youth-centered, focused media companies, the National Motherfucking Review. He is fired from there, and then he's hired at the Independent Journal Review, another right-wing outlet, as the chief content officer, another fucking manly job. He's again accused of plagiarism by his colleagues, and he's also accused of crying at work because he would get so frustrated with people.
That's fine.
It's for a guy? I'm sorry.
Hey, I don't say anything about it when you start crying at work.
I cry to manipulate you, okay? I cry to manipulate you and also to make you feel bad for me, which is I also, now that I'm saying that, manipulation. So yes, and I cry when I don't get my way. And I cry when I think about Taylor just like in the hands of some orc. He gets fired from there. And then he went to the Daily Caller and also TPUSA and is now independent with a radio show. But he's part of what people call Con Inc., right? Sort of like big conservative, you know? He's like, he's gone to all the different outlets. He's sort of like one of those aspiring Bill O'Reilly guys. But the man does not have the juice. He is sort of like a budget, who's the little fucking, God, I can't remember his name. People always love talking about him. You know what I'm talking about? Jewish. Ben Shapiro. So many Bens in this world.
So many Bens.
He's kind of like, he has the same cadence as Ben Shapiro, but he just like doesn't have the juice. And also, of course, long dogged by rumors that he likes fucking and sucking with the men folk. Anyways, he was not in the space when I got in there, Liz.
Does that make you sad?
I was just thrilled that no.
So wait, let's back it up. Sorry, let's go through. So you sit down, you're at the computer, then you realize, oops, can't be at the computer. So you get on your phone, and you're like, oh, go get the phone, and just all your papers are going everywhere, and you're getting like so nervous because you're trying to get into space. Let me in the space. Let me in the space. Let me in the space. And you get in the space on your phone, and you're just like, yo, what's up? It's Brace.
Yes. Yeah, I did. I didn't know how it worked, and there seemed to be a lot of speakers, and I realized I was the only one without a blue check, which immediately put me at ease because it made me feel like I'm different than everybody else.
Yeah. I'm not like those other people invited to the space.
I didn't recognize any of the people in there except for, a couple names. There's one like insane guy named Dom, and then, of course, you're my main Liz, right? Ish. Like you're one of my main Liz's. There's another Liz out there who's kind of our colleague in some ways named Liz Crokin.
Yeah, I don't really know who this person is.
I do. And you don't understand how I haven't smiled. I think methamphetamine kind of fucked up. I read this a long time ago, and I don't know if this is true, but I think I like kind of lost the capacity to feel joy because of that. And so this was like, for me, it's like the meter broke and my gas tank overfilled, and I was so happy that I smiled. Liz Crokin is one of the most prominent, classic, like way back 2018 goddess QAnon, 2017, 2016 QAnon, Pizzagate influencers. Like she is their like guy or lady rather. She was a former gossip journalist for such storied publications like In Touch and is it Us Weekly or US Weekly? I've never known how to pronounce it.
It's Us Weekly.
Us Weekly, which they should make a magazine like that.
If
Document.
it was US Weekly, it would be
There'd
abbreviated.
be dots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. She was, and this is where we were talking about this yesterday. She sued an ex for giving her herpes, which she claims, and I guess really did transform into viral meningitis, which is also coincides with what she has claimed is sort of a mental breakdown from viral meningitis and possibly encephalitis. I'm no doctor, but
Shit, that's crazy.
that's crazy. She claimed the herpes left her permanently brain damaged. And
Does she attribute that to the QAnon stuff? Is she like, look, you can't get mad at me for being into QAnon because I went insane because of herpes?
well, I think it's one of those things where it's like she went insane and then she became somebody who
Because I feel like you can't claim both.
it does stretch.
It's sort of like, well, but lady, you're already saying that you're insane because of a medical thing. So why should I believe you?
Yeah. Well, so this is where it gets even more wrinkled. After that, she writes a what I think they're now calling autofiction book. She writes a thinly veiled autobiographical style book about her life or about a life of a woman who has a similar name to her and similar past work experience who uncovers some like plot about a Mormon president. It does feature a President Muhammad Oyama.
Wait, is that the Mormon?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say that's
no,
crazy.
I believe that's the person.
That'd be kind of a cool wrinkle.
Yeah, oh, that'd be a little. Yeah, be a
That's
little
like,
twist.
oh,
Yeah.
twist. Wasn't expecting that.
They should. Yeah, that is true. You should start. If you want to do some wild card shit, name your baby Muhammad no matter what, right? Because that'll just like that will
Most
open
popular name in the world.
most popular name in the world, right? It's the Marlboro Lights of names. Anywhere you go, you can find a Muhammad, and that makes you feel at home. You know. So, the book's called Malice, and Muhammad Oyama and her ex is featured prominently in it. This is the same ex she says gave her the herpes that made her brain damaged and drove her crazy. She compares him to JFK Jr. a number of times.
Like physically or like pedigree wise?
His vibe.
Okay.
And also physically, I would guess. Also claims that he's part of a pedophile ring and that he gave
that's
his
not
daughter
JFK Jr.
Lyme disease on purpose.
What, like through tick?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe like
Threw a bunch of ticks on her?
Just put her. I mean, listen,
Or pedophile ring CIA, that's how you give someone Lyme.
I mean, I'm not going to act like I haven't put a woman in a hole of ticks, right? I'm not going to say I haven't done that. But the mid-2000s...
It's really more of a field that you got to worry about than a hole.
Yeah, what do you think the hole is, Liz? I dig the hole. In the field. I put ticks in it. I say, hey, do you want to go on a walk in this meadow with me?
Yeah, and then whoops.
I mean, like, you walk ahead so you can see the nature before I do, right? To make it so that it's untouched by my eyes.
Hey, go look over there.
And then I just do one hand, two hand, bam, you're in the motherfucking hole, and I rescue you. I'm like, how'd that hole get here? Also, I tripped. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you got Lyme disease.
Now you got Lyme disease, and I have to take care of you. So she believes every single QAnon thing. At one point, she claims that demons gave her dog bloody diarrhea.
Well, that's mean.
Both her dogs, bloody diarrhea. She is a major QAnon influencer. She's like in that HBO doc. I mean, she is like one of the big names of fucking QAnon. She was taken off Twitter 4 years ago, and she was
in the big
like when they banned all the QAnon people from social media.
When the storm came.
The storm really came. And so I was immediately just like tumescent to see her in this motherfucker, right? And I'll say things started off, predictably.
Well, I tuned in. I was making dinner, and it was absolute chaos, like any space, which, as a veteran space listener, I was ready for. I will say this, Brace. Even before you chimed in, I don't know at what point I tuned in. I kept tuning in and out because it got kind of annoying.
It was 4.5
and I was
hours
like
long.
doing a bunch of shit, and then the basketball game started. But nobody knew what the fuck they were talking about.
It's crazy. Like, I don't think of myself as like a really knowledgeable guy.
You are. Why would you say that?
I don't know. Cause because like there's other people that know like everything, right?
Dude, you are extremely erudite.
Well, I am erudite, but but you know what I mean. Like, it's like you know, like I feel like everyone kind of thinks of themselves like I know some things, but like my knowledge is pretty incomplete, right? Like there's a lot of people who know a lot more than me.
Street smarts, book smarts.
Yeah, I have sort of a third kind, which is they call worm smarts.
The third way.
Yeah, I sort of take it in my own direction on that, right? And I was like, I am a genius. Like, my God, people at one point, this seemed to be a common misperception there, or misconception rather, that Epstein and Bill Gates themselves were working in MIT in a lab. The subtext of which is they were maybe making COVID.
Wait.
Like themselves as scientists.
Okay. The Media Lab also has more to do with like computer. It's not like they're not like tinkering around with.
Well, the other conception there was, and this was something that was brought up frequently. I didn't listen. I gathered some timestamps for some of this stuff to play on the show, but this space was 4.5 hours long, and my timestamps kind of cap out at an hour because that's all I really wanted to re-listen to yesterday. You can forgive me. But there was also a conception that was brought up several times by people that they thought that Epstein was maybe tasked by the CIA to infiltrate MIT, which betrays a vast lack of I guess they're not familiar with MIT's traditional relationship with the United States government because it's very, very close. And I don't think they need to hire somebody to get information about what's happening from MIT and like guide scientists.
But I also like the idea that there's any institution anywhere in the United States that it's like the government is like, fuck, if it weren't for that impenetrable fortress, we would know what is going on in there. We've got to get inside.
Well, that's sort of
as opposed to them just building every single institution from the bottom up.
It's weird because that's sort of like a thing that you see a lot because like Epstein obviously is like a lot of people know about it. A lot of people are like, well, which is great. But a lot of people sort of think that it's like through that, like you'll sort of find out their views on like government agencies and stuff. And they seem to think that like all our government agencies exist, like they were started with these like pristine, noble goals and they were corrupted by some outside malign force, right?
Yeah, that's
like they've grown
very QAnon.
Super, yeah. And that was a definite like major strain of thought here, which was like, I've encountered that many times in my life, but it was just like, it's so frustrating because it's like, well, then what do you think that they should be doing, right? Like, how does this, if the Epstein stuff is like, you're taking that into account, like, how is that so different than a lot of the things that they've done in the past? It's not. I did encounter, though, a kind of, as you might say, classico theory in that Hillary Clinton is gay.
So Hillary Clinton allegedly was into females.
I will say that there was, so I had clicked back on my phone because I knew you had to be on a phone to listen. And I clicked back on and immediately I heard, wait, are you saying Huma Abedin accused Hillary Clinton of raping her?
Yes.
And I was like, what the fuck am I listening to?
Yes. There was several people in there who were under the impression that Huma Abedin had written a tell-all book where she accused Hillary Clinton of sexual assault.
Huma Abedin, she was the aide or longtime aide of Hillary Clinton. And in her book, she did accuse Hillary of sexual assault.
Now, this is very obviously not true, right?
Yeah, I feel like we all would have heard about that one.
But this was great because it was. I ran into a lot of people who kept saying that they'd done their research, but they're clearly just read either the most insane websites in the world and then misread what was written on those.
Yeah, which, by the way, when you're reading the most insane websites in the world, you got to make sure you're not misreading them.
Take your motherfucking notes.
Yeah, and shout out to reading the most insane websites in the world. That's one of my favorite pastimes.
That wasn't all, though, because that sort of led into a discussion about a video known as Frazzle Drip.
Frazzle Drip?
Wait, what's the Frazzle Drip? What's that?
Now, we've talked about Frazzle Drip on this show before, way, like 4 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I've seen it.
Liz has seen it. Liz has seen it behind the lens of a camera. Because today
I
we're
took it.
revealing Liz videotaped the Frazzle Drip video. I have not seen it because it doesn't exist. But
What?
there are so many. At one point, a lady in this claimed she had seen the Frazzle Drip
Okay,
video.
wait, stop. So people who are just tuning in because they're like, wow, I thought I could listen to this space on the computer, but I can't. Can you please explain to the listeners at home what the
Frazzle Drip video is a video that purports to show, well, there's a few different versions, but the most basic version is that it shows Hillary Clinton killing a baby.
Wait,
What
you
video
saw a
for-
video of Hillary Clinton killing a child?
Other versions have her wearing the baby's face as her own.
Yeah, that's the one that
post-killing,
I saw.
And drinking blood.
So I'll move away from Hillary Clinton drinking a child's blood, please.
Yeah.
One of the common sort of like tales about this is that 12 NYPD officers have seen this video and they were like, it came from Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Yes.
And that he had it as life insurance labeled on that, and that they tried to investigate it but were prevented by the Obama administration, or I don't know who. I guess that was after Obama. Anyway, no, it
Someone
wasn't.
intervened and yeah.
The deep state
No,
intervened
this was during Obama.
and prevented. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was during Obama. They prevented them from revealing this video in which Hillary Clinton eats a baby.
Yeah.
And I try to say fat bastard style as many times as possible.
Baby, it's what's for dinner.
During this space, I said it, I believe, successfully 4 times. But really, that is what she's being accused of here is fat bastard level crimes. And that was when I was like, this is the greatest space in human history. I loved it. But the host realized they probably had to rein some of this in, and so they kicked a bunch of the people who were talking about
Oh,
the
they
Frazzle.
did?
They did.
Oh.
Liz Crokin did try to say Pizzagate was real.
Okay.
But she was clearly like trying to hide her power levels.
Yeah, sure. Classic.
And
I mean, Liz to Liz, understand the move.
Totally, I get it. And then Benny Johnson came in, and it got really boring for 40 minutes while he
Yeah.
talked and would not shut the fuck up in his budget bullshit Ben Shapiro ass bullshit.
Budget
and-
Ben Shapiro ass bullshit BuzzFeed Benny
BuzzFeed
voice.
Benny, suck my dicka. You fucking suck ass at talking. But the man can talk, and the man takes very few breaths. My problem is I'm always breathing. And so sometimes when I talk, I'm done with the stuff that's in me, and I have to put more in, right? Air.
Yeah.
Benny has no such need. The guy is
He's
just
skilled.
He's just full of hot air already, right? He just expels that.
That was bad.
But he dips out after I make fun of him, where he claims to have technical issues. And then I thought this was going to be like an hour and a half. I spent the next 3.5 hours.
Why didn't you just bounce?
I tried to. I DM'd Mario behind the scenes. I was
Yeah.
like, I really got to make dinner, man. Like, I'm super hungry. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. He was like, just a couple more questions. 2.5 hours later,
Yeah.
I'm like, I ended up having to order food because it was like 10 p.m. I'm like, it'll take me too fucking long to make dinner at this point. And I want it done right. I wanted to get it right. This will give me a good excuse to be like, I have to go to the front door. Like, I'm getting out of the motherfucking space. But I got to tell you, Mario, he loved me. And I hope to make another return. The other guy who was the co-host, by the way, is part of Andrew Tate's war room and was the, quote, journalist who spread the rumor that Andrew Tate had inoperable lung cancer. Remember that? And potentially fatal lung cancer. And so these guys, I just saying, like, I got to get in on this group of dudes.
Sounds like you already are. You really got to do is get the Fruithy Connect.
I got to get the Fruithy Connect, and I got to get a couple of motherfucking Bitcoins up in this purse. So one of the main things that we talked about was a little fucking nerd named Bill Gates. You heard of this guy? Anybody heard of him? Bill Gates? So a new Wall Street Journal article came out You know how there's been those that series basically of articles that they have.
Yeah, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal have basically spent a lot of time filing a lot of FOIAs to get a lot of documents out of the Virgin Islands based on a ton of the stuff they've been filing in their lawsuit.
Yeah, so I think best guess is they've been doing FOIA suits against the motherfucking Virgin Islands and been getting this stuff this way. I know somebody who has the documents, and I know you might be listening to this episode, and I know you didn't respond to my text messages, but you can't escape me. I'm talking directly to you. You know who you are. Send me the documents. But Bill Gates, one of the hottest fucking studs. Liz, let me ask you this, a little fresh and fit moment. Bill Gates, 1 to 10.
Sorry, what's the good side and what's the bad side?
1 to 10. I'm just asking you.
He is just a no thank you from me.
A no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he's a 7.5.
He has that you hit a certain age and your skin starts to go transparent.
So true.
He has that and very ready.
He's ready.
Ready but clear skin. But not clear of acne as in see-through.
So you know Gollum, right?
Yeah.
The fucked up.
The little guy.
He's like kind of an evil ape. Gollum at one point was a kind of hobbit. I don't know if you're familiar with the backstory of Gollum.
Zero, absolutely not.
All good. You know what I'm talking about, Young Chomsky. Gollum was at one point was a kind of hobbit. I don't know what kind of hobbit, but I do know this. I've always been curious of what Gollum might have looked like before he became a fucked up sewer creature. I believe Bill Gates belongs to that same race of hobbit. You know what I mean? Like he's a diminutive man who
But isn't he very big?
He doesn't appear that way to me in my mental space.
In your memory of him.
But I don't think he is that big. No, I think he's kind of
I thought he was
shriveled.
tall.
I don't know if he is. He reads not tall to me. But I mean, there's no way he's like over 5'6". Oh, you think that's tall?
No, I thought.
You think 5'10" is tall?
No, I thought he was 6'4".
You thought Bill Gates was 6'4"?
Yeah, but that he had really bad posture because he is always rounded over because he is computer man.
He's computer man.
He's for his entire life he's got tech neck.
He's got
his
tech
whole
neck.
life. He's got tech spine.
So, Bill Gates, unlike many of you listening to this podcast, has been cheating on his wife. Well, ex-wife now. So, Bill Gates, it's pretty clear, I think, if you read between the lines and then also read the lines themselves, that Bill Gates was and I'll say this again, I've said this many times on the podcast, he was a fucking cocksman. He was going... Well, don't shake your head like that at me. He was. That's the literal definition.
I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking my head at him.
A philanderer.
He's
so
disgusto.
He was stepping out on his wife with a young Russian bridge player named Mila Antonova.
Do you know how to play bridge?
I do not. I don't know. What's the game people play? Canasta? Canasta.
I think bridge is having a big resurgence, though, and it has been for a while. But.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, not with me. But with Bill Gates, he's been an avid bridge player since childhood. He met Mila Antonova at some kind of bridge tournament. There is video. This is, you can just Google Mila Antonova, Bill Gates. You can fucking find it. I'm not linking that shit for you. They're very flirty. She's like, oh, I'm kicking his leg under the table. She's in her mid-20s when they meet. He's in his mid-50s. Problematic age gap. And they have some kind of affair. We do not have a lot of insight into what that affair looks like. That affair was confirmed, basically, by Bill Gates' people. The article is very scant on details about exactly how long that lasted, etc. But a few years after this affair at least started, she was introduced to one Jeffrey Epstein, convicted pedophile, by a guy named Boris Nikolic.
Who we have not talked about in a very long time.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about it quite a bit sort of at the beginning, but he's at the beginning of our show.
Yeah.
But he has understandably kept a pretty low profile.
Which is admittedly very difficult when your name is Boris Nikolic.
Mm-hmm. But he was...
much easier if your name is just Ben Smith.
Bill Gates' science advisor.
Mm-hmm.
and also the executor to Jeffrey Epstein's estate.
Yes.
Epstein, of course, was very, very close to many at the Gates Foundation, including Melanie Walker, who's also a bigwig at the World Bank. He'd known her since the early 90s when he approached her alongside one Donald J. Trump while she was sightseeing in New York City at the Plaza Hotel. She was close with Epstein and had an address listed as his address listed as her address for like a decade, from like the 90s to 2000. Later, of course, married Steven Sinofsky, an executive at Microsoft. So we learn in that article, too, that Epstein and Gates met together with Norwegian officials.
Which, yes, there are officials from Norway. Something that I learned from reading this article.
Including one... Okay.
You got to do it. You
You
started.
can pronounce names any way you'd like.
Actually, can I do it?
Yeah.
Thorbjorn Jagland.
It's... Can I try mine? Little ping pong here. Thorbjorn Jagland. Thorbjorn. You name your baby? You look at a baby and you're like, that's a Thorbjorn. Anyway, he's a former prime minister of Norway. They meet at his house, a house he owns, rather, in France in 2013 to discuss a possible Nobel Peace Prize for one Bill Gates. They now claim, at least Gates's people do, that Epstein and Bill Gates met with these Norwegian officials in order to discuss the security situation in Afghanistan in relation to Gates's polio vaccine. My question here is, Liz, you are Bill Gates, like the famous rich guy, probably the most famous rich guy before, I mean, he probably still is the most famous rich guy, but like, you know, Elon Musk kind of supplanted him in some ways. But like Bill Gates doesn't need an introduction from Jeffrey Epstein, right?
You'd think.
Norwegian officials.
Yeah, I don't really believe that.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they were doing at that villa in France. And anyways, fast forward to 2017, and Epstein sends a email to Bill Gates asking him to reimburse him because he had paid for the young Russian bridge player Mila Antinova's coding boot camp back in 2013. And Epstein was like, you got to pay me back.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, that was his MO. He's always paying for girls' tuition.
But Gates's people are claiming that it was an attempt at blackmail, which I think actually makes this story kind of important because this would be the first actual, literal, confirmed case of Jeffrey Epstein doing blackmail, specifically involving a young woman, although of course of age, a young woman and a prominent, powerful person like Bill Gates. And so I think it's actually pretty major in that sense. But by 2017, Epstein wasn't doing so hot, and Gates, I think, just did not respond. Now, Liz, let's go away from the Gates to a place where many of our listeners live, the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, we're talking about this Gates thing and there's all these emails coming out and we're seeing kind of how Jeffrey emailed for the first time. And we're seeing a lot of that come out in this Virgin Islands lawsuit, right? But it's not just the lawsuit that the Virgin Islands filed, but JP Morgan Chase has now countersued the Virgin Islands, right? Which is very interesting. They, you know, so to kind of back up a little bit, the U.S. Virgin Islands, they filed their lawsuit against JP Morgan Chase last December, right? We covered this on podcast a couple of weeks ago, I think. The whole thing is that, you know, they're accusing JP Morgan Chase of knowingly profiting from Epstein's trafficking business. And so all of this stuff is kind of coming out in discovery and through all these filings that the Virgin Islands is, you know, filing. Jamie Dimon, the chair of JP Morgan Chase, is being deposed this weekend, which is huge. I doubt that any of the deposition will get leaked, but if it does, or if you have the power to do so,
Send it to us.
you should do it. Don't send it to Brace, send it to me.
Don't send it to me. I don't look at my email that often.
But so like I said, right, JP Morgan, they countersued the U.S. Virgin Islands. And as a part of that suit, They filed this like 30-page document basically claiming that, okay, don't look at the bank. You should be looking at actually the Virgin Islands government because they themselves, them very selves, have been profiting off of Jeffrey Epstein's business basically since he was convicted and then he moved to the Virgin Islands. And we talked about this a lot. We've talked about all these names are going to sound pretty familiar to people who've been listening for a while. But what JP Morgan says is for 2 decades and for long after JPMC exited Epstein as a client, the entity that most directly failed to protect public safety and most actively facilitated and benefited from Epstein's continued criminal activity was the plaintiff in this case, the U.S. Virgin Islands government itself. Now, I hate to do this, but I'm going to do this, which is this bank has some points.
Wait.
I think you should do it.
Okay.
You can say it.
Believe in me. Look at me and believe in me. Points were made.
Points were made.
I gotta tell you this. JP Morgan is serving.
Look, JP Morgan understood the assignment.
Did they?
No, they really do, though. I mean, the whole 30-page filing is really interesting. It puts forth the very totally not surprising and absolutely believable argument that Epstein and the Virgin Islands government were they had a total quid pro quo relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, we covered this. I don't know if that was a couple weeks ago, but whenever that was, a month ago. I don't know when that was.
I think it was back December when they first filed their suit, when the Virgin Islands filed their suit, but can't remember. Yeah, they basically said, JP Morgan says, the government enticed Epstein with tax incentives so that he could park his money there. And then looked the other way when he walked through U.S. Virgin Island airports accompanied by girls and young women.
So that is, so there was also, Benny stupid-ass Johnson was under the impression that Jeffrey Epstein had a airport on Little St. James or Big St. James.
No.
Or Great St. James. Wrong, asshole! He flew into the U.S. Virgin Islands airport. And
yes.
I don't have a lot of insight on how that process of him walking through the airport looked like, but looks like somebody does.
Yeah. Jeffrey had some pretty high up contacts in the government who would basically, as this is what JP Morgan alleges and seems to be very true, would basically arrange and handle all of the customs at the airport. You can't make this shit up. Jeffrey Epstein, who was a registered sex offender, right? He has to go through customs at the airport whenever flying into the U.S. Virgin Islands, right? He would then be accompanied by young women. That would be a flag anytime you're traveling.
Yep.
Right? He's a registered sex offender. It would come up on the screen, that would be a flag. There are emails here where Jeffrey Epstein is, talking to who we need to talk about a little bit. First Lady Cecile DeJong, who we have talked about.
Friend of the show.
Basically asking who was in charge at customs, and then calling out by name supervisors on various emails throughout his tenure there, saying this person gave me trouble, this person was really good. Please, I don't want this person working. Blah 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 blah. Emailing the first lady, the governor's wife, his pick of who he wanted to be the customs agents at the airports when he was flying in. As a thank you, he even emailed and asked about how he could send every single customs agent at the Virgin Islands airport a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Really? So if you remember from our recent episode on the U.S. Virgin Islands and Jeffrey Epstein, the Attorney General of the U.S. territory, Denise George, was fired a few days after filing this lawsuit, right? And at the time, we were like, I think they probably don't. This is embarrassing to them, right? Because there's no way that you can have a lawsuit from the U.S. Virgin Islands against Jeffrey Epstein without mentioning the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was tied in so tight to many former governors of the U.S. Virgin Islands and to practically the entire elite of the entire territory, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like that is coming precisely true with these emails. That's very, 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 very damning.
Yeah, the whole filing makes a really good case about the longstanding relationship between Epstein and the government of the islands. Basically, so it started in 2009 when he sought to arrange the supervision of his parole to be transferred from Florida to the U.S. Virgin Islands as he was making Little St. James his permanent residency. He then registered there as a sex offender in 2010, and he basically emailed back and forth with officials on how they could rearrange or what his preferred language would be in the sex offender statute in the Virgin Islands. So there's a ton of officials that are named in this filing. The past 3 governors, Jean DeJean, who we've talked about, Kenneth Mapp, double P, and then the current governor, Albert Bryan, who's the guy who fired Denise George, like you mentioned. Cecile DeJong, who I mentioned, is the wife of the former governor, Jean DeJean, and was, of course, one of the, she would call herself a manager. Others would call her president or sitting on the board of at least one of Jeffrey Epstein's companies that was incorporated in the Virgin Islands.
Albert Bryan was also, I believe, Jean DeJong's protege.
Yes.
And kind of came up in the ranks behind him.
So these email exchanges between him and Cecile, or First Lady DeJong, are pretty fucking damning. I mean, the one about the sex offender legislation is she literally emails, "This is the suggested language. Will it work for you?" And Epstein replies, "We should add out of country for more than 7 days. These files could also be accessible by the press. If we are not careful, a list of who I stay with would say it violates my privacy, restrict my business and livelihood," which is pretty crazy. And then there's other emails where he just he'll email her straight up, who should I be voting for? Like, who are like the people that I need to get in with? And Cecile would reply, "Consider putting Celestino, who's I believe a senator, Celestino White, on some sort of monthly retainer. That will get you his loyalty and access."
This is, I gotta say, lawsuits aside, these emails seem like they should be in a regular sort of fair world, fatally damaging to basically the entire governing apparatus of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
That will most likely not be the case. But Denise George, if you would like to come on this podcast, this is an open invitation. Because it seems like, I mean, that is just like, what's crazy to me is that like, I just like getting these in, like, one of the TrueAnon rules is get it in writing, right? Not this. Like, you should not be corresponding with the wife of the former governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Which actually,
at the time he was the governor.
the wife of the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands says that in her emails. She says, "We should stop emailing about this."
Yeah. And it's just like, it's astounding. Like, I guess they thought they would never get caught, which, that makes sense, I guess. But it seems like he was really bankrolling the entire U.S. Virgin Islands, or at least the politicians therein.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a pretty good system. I mean, he got basically a shit ton of tax incentives to set up shop there. And, a lot of the money, it's funny. So the first filing, JP Morgan, filed this last week, and it was heavily, heavily redacted. And then they basically lifted a bunch of the redactions, which included a lot of the politicians' names. And you're like, okay, that's interesting. What they kept redacted was basically anything that detailed actual accusations of criminal activity and money stuff, which is really interesting. So, the part that refers to all the criminal activity, says, it's like, first, U.S. Virgin Islands permitted Epstein, a registered sex offender under its supervision, to... Second, U.S. Virgin Islands granted. And then whole pages remain redacted that basically go over how the U.S. Virgin Islands systematically gave Epstein preferential treatment, which included conducting cursory site visits or being how do we kind of let a lot of this sex offender compliance stuff lapse? It is all heavily redacted, and you really can't tell exactly, what they were aiding and abetting, basically.
It's funny because, like I mentioned, it seems like the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands was probably not thrilled with Denise George filing this lawsuit, right? I mean, one of the reasons that she was ostensibly fired is because the government claims that she did not inform them that she was filing this suit before she did.
Yeah.
And one has to imagine that the reason that she did that was probably because she knew that there was a lot of really damning stuff on what looks like the entire political apparatus of the U.S. Virgin Islands. I mean, it seems like really the territory is run just by like a criminal cartel who are being funded by one of the most notorious sex criminals of the 21st century.
Yeah, and I think, the most damning, just really awful evidence in this filing that allegedly, hate siding with Chase on this one, but Chase alleges that Cecile, the first lady, helped Epstein's girls get visas so that they could come visit the Virgin Islands. And in order to do that, she set them up with student visas through the universities. She would enroll them in English classes, English as a second language class, at the U.S. Virgin Islands. And there's emails back and forth where basically it seems that what they're suggesting is they need to show that there's proof that these girls can pay tuition in order for their visas to go through. But she says basically that they should think about whether or not, quote, he should sign the letter or one of us, because having a registered sex offender sign as proof of funding for underage girls or, 18-year-old girls, students, to get their visas, pushed through.
Visas pushed through, yeah.
Would not look good. So basically, she was completely and totally aware of what was going on and what she was, kind of trying to work around. And then, ultimately, according to J.P. Morgan Chase, the University of Virgin Islands basically structured an entire class just to enroll Epstein victims in order to provide them cover for being on the island in the first place.
I mean, that is major, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying. It seems like U.S. Virgin Islands, not a big territory, right? Not a ton of people live there. And it seems like anybody who is in any position of power was essentially in the pay and the employ of Jeffrey Epstein. Well, I want to put out an open offer to both sides on this. U.S. Virgin Islands, we'd like to hear your side of the story. If you want to leak anything against J.P. Morgan Chase, do it to this show.
Absolutely.
J.P. Morgan Chase, I have banked with you for 0 days, but I would potentially in the future if I figured out what's going on with that. And we offer an open invitation for you to both give us a loan at extraordinarily low interest rates, but also to come on the show and leak whatever you have against the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Do you remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
I do, the Claymation television show.
So we should have that, but for J.P. Morgan Chase versus the U.S. Virgin Islands.
To all lawyers out there, let us be your voice. Let us be your champion.
Yeah.
Let us, please.
And what a voice we would be.
What a voice we would be. Just please, any documents that you have, text messages, anything like that, send it on over. We'd love to read it. We'll read it out loud on the show. We'll do funny voices.
We'll do it in a space.
We'll do it, yeah, you know what? We'll do it in a Twitter space.
And, we'll do it in a Twitter space. No BuzzFeed anybody's allowed.
We'll do it in a racial holy war motherfucking Clubhouse chat room. I'll do it in various other apps that were created sort of during COVID and then really lost their utility soon after. SoftBank, that is also an invitation for you to fund us on maybe $100 million, $200 million app that we would create to fulfill a certain niche interest that fades within 3 months, if you would like to do that. We are doing Series A funding right now. And let me just tell you, the wallet is open to receive money.
Then that wallet is easily hacked.
It's so easily hacked. My password, by the way, is Brace Belden. I am joined by
Liz. We are, of course, as always, sitting right next to Young Chomsky. And this has been TrueAnon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
That's what you